lovely people. Much love to all of you. I'm just sending something quickly. I'm coming now. If you're here, just be patient with me. I'm just inviting. I'd love to get feedback from you guys. That's why I'd like some of you to join, just to give me your, what you've observed. It's very interesting to see anyway what people are observing. So patience, 1 second. I'm just seeing who's here. Oh, sorry. And see who manages to get on this. But it's very fascinating, actually, to observe what's going on. And secondly, to apologize to any of those out there that I've been following and who's following, basically, been following me. I explained why as well, because of this realization that, it's an illusion, or the whole thing. You don't want to feed the separate one. Long story. But also, I haven't been well. So they have been battling with their health. They've been quiet. Going for lots of tests with the doctors, trying to find out what's wrong. Still haven't come to the bottom of it yet. But I must admit, they've done a lot of testing. So they are trying. But we haven't come to the bottom of what's the cause of this. So let's see. So main thing is, as I said, if you've been observing what's happening, it's really interesting. And if you haven't been getting emotionally involved, attached to any of the stories and the narratives which were spread, and the groups that started these, and this group, and he's the good guys and there's the bad guys. If you haven't, and if you've watched, slowly the picture is becoming more clear. But it has been fascinating to see the games going on. And the amazement is, I'm looking at it from a conscious point of view, because once you've done this and been on this path enough, and go through all these stages, and we went to the mental body, as I was explaining, you see its patterns. This I, this illusionary self, is a mechanical thing. It's just a story. And it goes around. That's why it keeps coming up with stories. It's an illusionary character. It's an illusionary existence, the so-called separate one. Me, myself, I, playing this being character. There's no separation. There's only one. But if you listen to non-dual, you see that. So you start to identify this. And you then, once you identify it here, you're aware of how the so-called I, illusionary character, me, myself, I, this Maya works. You see it. It's the same mechanism with all. It's a mechanism. So the body's programmed, it runs a program, blah, 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 whatever the character wants to play. So then you see it, you realize it's everywhere, because the illusion, if you listen to the non-dual, the belief in the me, myself, I rises in everything. It's because this whole thing is its play. It's in a bubble. So you realize when you start going, everything is your reflection of it. There's no real you, of the so-called separate one, right? So that's how you really understand that all characters, all people as such, are run the same way. This me, I, this whole program, the brain, the whole, the way the characters work is the same, right? So they work on patterns. So then and also genetic, so-called, in the story, right, of the genes of the family. So then you understand, if you look at rulership, just an example, right? It's very interesting if you're observant enough. Look at rulership. Take for instance the royal family. Look at the history, and you'll see they'll do the same thing, because it's in their genes anyway. The programming and the mind and everything is in the basic genes anyway. So pretty much you'll repeat the same pattern. So the same, as they say, Joe Dispenza says, the pattern we repeat it because it's a mechanism. It's an illusionary character. There's no separate one. So the same thing here. Now, if you understand what happened before, how they got the public, if you've done any research, and you can see how do you get, if you want the public to go in your way, there's a good mechanism they're using. And I noticed that because even it's popping up in the ads on YouTube. Oh, they don't want you to know this. It's like telling someone not to think about something, because they know how the mind works. They're going to think about it. Hi, Katrina. It's lovely to see you guys. Sorry, I'm still sitting in bed because the health isn't here. Not been going well. So, this, they don't want you to know this. This is a lake. Everyone's trying to tell you this. This is what they don't want you to know. Nonsense. This is become an ad. Ads even use it now, right? So if you watch now and you see who's running the platforms and who's doing what, and then you see what you're being fed, so then you realize they are actually pushing this stuff, which is even more amusing. So then you understand, but it's mind-boggling. Just take, for example, guys, I want to get from you guys as well what's happening in your countries. So if you understand what happened after the Second World War, as I say, all wars are bankers' wars. It's all about money. Your national security really is based around money, actually. It's around money, what they believe. But depending on the program running, as remember, they are unawakened and they're running programs. They're in a loop, but they believe they're real anyway, and their character's real. So they're running programs. So, of course, the banking sector, same wars, the same rulers, the same things. They've been warring with each other, the ruling families, for ages. So they're still running the same programs, the same behaviors going on, and so they will behave the same way. So if you see what's happening now and you understand the Marshall Plan, which happened after the Second World War, where the bankers got together and decided how they're going to make America, to build up kind of a separate empire, to make it big. If we get everyone to buy American goods, the banks then would give loans. You could only get a bank loan and bank this money from them if you bought from America. This was their little fight with Russia. And then the first actually job the CIA ever had was the regime change of Italy. Now, this has been declassified. It's fascinating if you've actually watched it. You can actually go and watch a documentary, how the CIA was used to change the political elections because they wanted the whole of Europe on board. So the CIA was sent in, and they worked together with the Catholic Church, actually, because the population of Italy, fascinating, was really going to vote more on Russia's side. They were more on fairness, which they call communism. This is why communism became such a big word. And every time before elections, this same word is spread to fear. So before every elections, oh my gosh, communism, oh, commies, this and that. If they just spread the word communism, then everyone's going to, it puts everyone off. So fear, communism, terror threats. There's certain things you'll see before elections are always spread to keep things in the same way. Because if you understand all things are a program. So if you want to say, let's say, those that want to get their own way, which are not the actual not running the government. So say your civil servants, your intelligence services, your military, those people are always they stay in, you see, they don't change. So, but they want to keep things the same. So you will interfere. So if you rig things and interfere with elections, you keep getting your own way, just by chance. So you can watch how successful that whole regime change story was and how they swung the entire Italian elections in 1947. Fascinating, actually. I didn't even know that. So that was their first job, and they've become very good at it. Anyone can know if you haven't noticed. And if you know enough and you've been observant enough, you know how it works and that the games work and all the propaganda and how, it works and how you instigate these things. So this is very, very interesting to observe. But what really is fascinating is the mind. This is the part that fascinates you because you have no bone in the game. You just, whatever they're going to do. And you just watch without getting emotionally attached and judged. Because remember, this is an illusion and that is still a body acting on a program and believing it's real in the first place. and they're all sorts, so it doesn't matter. It's complete, even it doesn't matter who they are. But it's so interesting to see. It's unwinding because here's just the logic. It's strange, but as I say, they're running programs and they're same people in power, so they're going to still do the same behavior, the same program. So it's obvious. You can actually kind of predict them. You can see the patterns. It's very easy to see the patterns. So which is found very interesting here is this TikTok story, hostile. Now this is a typical kind of behavior from hostile takeovers. Now, if you know that most of the big corporations, most of your multi-corporations, your multi-food, you all complain about General Mills, all the toxic food, your huge food corporations, your Wall Street, because America was made the biggest empire. So you've got them there, Amazon, Elon Musk, all of these there really, right? So it is fascinating to watch. So obviously it's been pushed, all their companies are being pushed. So you can see it, I recognize the pattern, that what we're living through again is what you call what happened after the war, which is the Marshall Plan. You can see it actually, because that's what I'm saying. You're dealing with bankers, you're dealing with the same people. Which run patterns. All these characters, all players in the Maya run the same program. The biological system runs program, genetics, blah, blah, blah. So naturally, they're going to do the same thing. So, of course, being bankers, being the same story and the same place, they all act the same. Intelligence agencies act the same, whatever programs they've been taught. So, very interesting to see. So, here comes, you can see it rolling out, the Great Reset, which is really the Marshall Plan 2.0. So, you saw this whole anti-Europe story happening. Now, which is really interesting because the Europeans have a huge high standard of organic foods, anti-pesticides, anti-this, fake food, all that kind of stuff. So you can see where America's trying to go. It's Elon Musk, AI, all the most of the military industrial complexes on robots, AI, especially in defense and all kinds of things like that. So it's all robotics, AI, Wall Street, here we are. Everything you have to buy America, Amazon, everything from Amazon, they've taken over basically everything online, to control online, to have all the shops, all the foods, basically same thing. That's what Brexit was about. It was very interesting. This whole Brexit move and those behind it was exactly to swing everything, to be very pro them and to go for them, which is really, if you look at it, Amazon, Elon Musk, all of that, all the companies they own, Wall Street, but also Trump. This is so interesting. So it's very clear to see now that they are very much behind him, because as soon as they got their last hostile sort of way with TikTok here, because they wouldn't go public, wouldn't become a public trading company, and it was the biggest platform and they wanted money. See, it's all about how can we make something out of it. Now, if you understand a program's running, what do bankers think? It's all about money, profit, what we can get from it. So let's get TikTok and let's ruin it. Let's go on. We've got Vanguard now. All kinds of see what's happening. I mean, yeah, it's all the who's who on here now. It's so interesting. So every time they threatened them, more and more, they gave it more and more control, more this, more that. Anyway, they've got their way now. But how clear it is to see, because the minute they really got their way, and you've got now BlackRock and everyone, with their shares now really controlling it, and Vanguard and, Wall Street and whatever, the same Wall Street, which is America's interest, everything they're trying to get. This is why they were so desperate to get more countries, especially England, behind this Brexit on, everything must come through them and stick with them and not with anyone else, and cause a division or weaken Europe, really. This is really what it was about. Fascinating, actually. But now that they have, I'm watching what they're pushing. So what everyone was saying was conspiracy. Now you're being flooded with Trump, which you never saw on TikTok before. No consciousness story. All of the light worker consciousness, higher consciousness, Eckhart Tolle, any, kind of enlightenment, awakening, poof, gone. Awakening, your For You page, none of it. No people, no awakening, no enlightenment, no anything like that, no consciousness. Social media, I mean, as you know, I don't know what's on your For You page. You can reset it, and it was not set like this. There was no algorithms. They don't tell me it's not algorithms there. So you could keep complaining and keep resetting and keep saying it was useless content and reset your thing. And I would do that and it would just reset. And I was seeing, very much regime change kind of content, political, trying to stir political unrest, cause, spiritual, it's the same sort of regime change contracts, but now in England, actually. Funny thing is, what they also do is very much anti the crown. So this is very interesting, because as soon as they get more and more power, every time they sort of cause trouble, now they have, you're getting everything anti, they seem to hate Harry and Meghan. So all of a sudden, tons of channels pop up anti-Harry and Meghan. You are now pushed with, what's her name? Katie, whatever her name is. The Brexit Party, Reform Party, all of a sudden, always before elections, they pop up again. This is so interesting. So now you've got Wall Street and all these people pushing Trump. So now you know who wants Trump to get in power. Definitely Wall Street, Vanguard, Elon Musk, which is the same owners. All the shareholders in Tesla behind Elon Musk are the same thing. The biggest shareholders, which actually have the share even to remove him, are Vanguard, BlackRock, Wall Street, really. So, they've got their shares in Amazon, Tesla, Elon Musk, anything to do with it, and they're pushing it. So Elon Musk has been pushed I don't know how many platforms are flooding you with Elon Musk, like some celebrity, some royalty celeb. Trump and all his family, and now you're flooded with them. Katie Hopkins, Nigel Farage, political unrest, Muslim content, and all kinds of immigrant, but that's always before elections. So it was, from an observation point, if you see all of a sudden what you're being pushed, it's very easy to see what they want, who they want in power and what they want, who they have shares in. I mean, every celebrity's on here now. No Joe Soap anymore. This was purely for the people. All kind of celebrities, as long as they get in the news, even if it's bad news or nonsense or drama, no matter how much you refresh your page now and you complain, you've never watched it, you don't the algorithms, you don't like it, you don't share it, you are going to get force fed it. You can block the content. I even tried that, blocking these, pages. Now, obviously, they didn't get their way. So you can see they're very much behind the Conservative Party, the Reform Party, which is obvious. And now they didn't get in England. The Labour Party got in, and my gosh, they are trying everything. They've got so many platforms and bot platforms out there against the Labour Party, against the Labour leadership, trying to cause trouble, trying to in any way destabilise England, actually, in all ways, politically, socially, religiously. It's like very obvious. So it's so obvious. The tactics are very obvious. But it is fascinating. And then you look out just generally, and same with this whole battle. So you're getting mixed. If you guys, I don't know about you guys, but if you are aware, look at the health content. So you're being pushed vegan, right? You've got this one camp that's telling you vegan, plant-based, which is big food companies, General Mills, blah. So this is obviously their plan and their shares. Cheaper way to feed people, quicker. Who knows what they're up to. So everyone wants you to go vegan, anti-meat, anti-dairy, anti-everything. Which, in a way, it makes sense, because if you realize that 80% of the world's antibiotics have been fed to our cattle, 80% has gone to livestock, not people actually, then all the parasites and worms and illnesses, the cattle, most of our cattle and our food are going to become antibiotic resistant. We're going to have worms and parasites that are going to be resistant to antibiotics, and it can be a serious problem to humanity. Can cause a problem to humanity. If we've got tapeworms and things running around, they're going to become antibiotic resistant because our cattle have been constantly fed antibiotics. So yeah, you can kind of see the logic in discouraging people now from dairy. When you've pumped the animals so full of antibiotics, you're going to cause some problem. And same with the soil. Fair enough, you can see that. So America obviously has got its stake. That's normal. I mean, that's why Trump pushed to change the whole free trade. But it wasn't about that. It was if you go look into the trade deals and the clauses. So they've got their toe in half of South America. So all the big giant food corporations can grow their food now in South America because their soil is being damaged, as we know, from all the glyphosate and mass farming, and it's dead really. So it's food security. So your countries, it's how you see. But what amazes me is the same way that they look at our leadership. Now, if you have no stake in the matter and you're just genuinely looking at this from a human prospect, humanity's survival, you're not looking at it, that's what I say, you see the patterns going here. Where the military and thing will always think everything's a threat and everything's us against them, it's program and training. Remember, they're all running programs, even their parents. It's like robotic behavior patterns going on here. But when you're just stepping back and looking at it from a bigger picture, you think, well, right, we have a planet, we have a problem planet because we have these multi-corporations who now want to still do the same thing, running the same programs, and, just whatever. Just change a little bit, and I think that it baffles one's mind. But if you work together as society, never mind the same thing, us against them nonsense, which is happening now. This is like, as I said, this is the Marshall Plan 2.0. Let's push out China, and let's shut out Russia, and not it's insanity, this whole thing. If we looked at the fact we are one planet, we're all together, and we looked at it from that, not greed, not profit, from my country, and trying like we're doing now, wars and division. But if you looked at it from that section, and looked at it from we are one planet, for humanity's sake, let's all work together. You see, what have you got? What have we got? Okay, we've got this. They don't have food. We have got minerals, and we share. See, it's not about greed and not about control. But if you've done enough work on the self, you understand the program. And the so-called illusionary one, the I, is all about control. The ego is very much about control, so-called illusionary ego. But it's about control. And the patterns, they're going to behave the same way because they thought the same way. They've been trained the same way. The patterns are running. The genetics are running. So this is where I say, from that point of view, you can clearly see they're just repeating the same patterns. That's how I realize, okay, this is what they're doing. This is just the Marshall Plan 2.0, trying to force Europe out now. Whoever doesn't want to go, you see, doesn't want to do this us against them story. Instead of looking at it, this is a global planet. We're all facing this. It's not like we're not on the planet and you half are there. Not this, there's no real planet and people anyway, but in the Maya, we have a planet, we have people. This is all real, right? It's just pretend we in a real situation here. Living on a rock in the middle of nowhere, floating around space. You got to find it amusing. But we're all on the same planet. So this whole thing about control, this is, as I say, you can see the greed in Wall Street, right? But of course, your military, your intelligence are going to, it's all about the GDP. So they're doing the same. They're just doing the same thing, which you can clearly see as well. You can see the games going on, regime change, manipulation, propaganda, all kinds of nonsense happening out there. I mean, it's obvious, but that's how they're behaving, because everyone's doing the same thing. It's obvious, but it's one planet. And it's fascinating to watch, and you think, okay, we're going through the shift. There's sort of a consciousness happening here. Some aren't, but oh wow, it's just amazing. Let's work together. But if you're used to having control and domination and bullying and being greedy, you don't want to share. It's all about money, you see. But it's not like there's a shortage. You can't eat the stuff. So yeah, it's sad that you think they wouldn't pull together and, okay, let's share. Instead of trying to fearmonger the public and scare them and cause wars and division. But it is really telltale to see, when you look at and understand, shareholders control the companies. They can remove the directors, especially if it's a public traded company. They can get rid of Elon Musk, anyone. The directors, the chairmen, they can change. They have the power to change it. So if you understand whose money is, they really have say. Yes, sorry, I've been sick. The health is not doing well, sorry. So that's why I haven't been on. And as I say, there's nothing to share, because this is just interesting. It's really interesting, because if you understand everything runs on a pattern, the characters, the program of this illusionary self, separate one, is a program. And it's faulty, it's so easy to see it. So it runs in a program, and also genetic. So that's what I'm saying. You can expect the same. You can see the same patterns. Before every election, that is so clear. Since 2016, the games that have gone on to try and, break up Europe, or have, especially Britain on the side of all America, of Wall Street and the same, and the massive mega. It's just mass corporations, mass control, mass food, the same thing. They're just changing the type of food, because now we've destroyed all the cattle, probably caused, antibiotic resistance, who knows, parasites, worms, all kinds of, wouldn't be surprised we have gut problems and, and issues going on here they probably are, because they're like anything which if you give too much medication, same with the malaria, because of all the malaria treatment and resistance. And we've got resistant TB, we've got resistant malaria because of all the drugs and stuff we use. So it would make sense if we've been mass producing and shoving cattle in unsanitary things, and which is factual, and giving them all antibiotics constantly, that we have an issue. And we will develop an issue. Same with the land. So of course, but the greed doesn't change. So now we've colonized with the new trade deal. We've kind of colonized South America for food security purposes. But why not work together? This is what baffles you. You've got a whole planet. Now, instead of starting wars and fighting over, everyone's after Africa, soil, because of the soil and the water, to control wherever there wouldn't need to be fighting. Because from the public's point of view, us humans here don't see the need to fight. We haven't got the problem, because we aren't the ones that own Wall Street or own BlackRock, or have got any money to lose or gain like they do. How much do you need? Everybody could live comfortably. Every person. There wouldn't be poor people. There wouldn't be hungry people. If we didn't have greedy mega corporations, which most of them are sitting in America. And they are now trying to do the same thing, trying to do the whole reset, but dominate and control the whole world. And who doesn't want to play with us, we're going to shut you off and block you out. So now half the world is going to be, you won't have any, we want to divide up, and you can't speak to them and you can't see them. And this control of media, control of everything, you can't even find their companies. And the public are sitting back, it's fascinating to sit back and watch this, like this one. Just sitting back to watch this is really interesting because you can see the pattern of the so-called illusionary self, these Maya, the characters just running. And they're repeating it. But what is really interesting here is that the public want social. Those that are waking up really want community, unity. We really miss actual physical contact with each other. No, it's not. Everything is source. That's what I'm saying. This is a Maya. There's no real people anywhere in planet. It's a complete bloody illusion. But that's why if you're aware enough, you can see, you understand how this program works, this so-called illusion. You can see it. You can see the faults in it. It's so clear because you've done enough work on your own on the program. Yeah, you see it, and you see how it operates. You see how it runs in a cycle that repeats. So the illusion, the so-called me, is not much power. It repeats. This is why they say it cycles, because it does. Isn't it? It's a really kind of a program. It's fascinating. So you can see that. So of course the bankers not thinking, okay, this is what fascinates me. There's a lack of a connection there. Why did TikTok become the most successful and the biggest platform globally? So it was very valuable, but they never took it to Wall Street, so that no one could have control. So you see, so people that were used to having all the power, there were many attempts to buy out TikTok. I mean, Google put in. You see, they're used to owning everything. This is, I'm saying, how much do you need? Google tried to buy TikTok. Elon Musk, I don't have Elon Musk here, but quite a few people tried to get, definitely Facebook, try to control. Greed. Everyone's trying to fight who I'm going to be the biggest, in the play yard, whatever. Let's not share. But TikTok was big. Why did it become big? Look at what it was. I joined in 2021. I was guided to come on here with Awakening. And it was fascinating to see. It was really bizarre. Never thought I'd be on here. But anyway, this was, it was helping humanity in the Awakening story. This is just what happened here, this character. Not like there's anyone doing it anyway. So this is what happened here. And it was really bizarre. It was such an unusual platform because you had a hillbilly sitting in his room eating his dinner. I mean, that was like, okay, who'd be interested in watching that? But people were. That's what I'm saying. It was because it was so interesting because people had a chance to see other people. Joe Soap, some hillbilly, the lady down the street. I mean, not celebrities. You see, you weren't pushed the same old nonsense, and it wasn't, with plastic surgery. And so you could see, and some weird guy, and, a gamer, and the first time you got to hear an autistic person explain what it was like to have autism. It was interesting for me. So it really was a very interesting platform. And anybody could go on and make movies and talk. And that's what I'm saying. So average Joe was becoming popular. Why did people like it? Why? Because they could this was a real platform. Real people were on it. But it got that big that it got the interest of the multi-mega companies in Wall Street. And Wall Street couldn't get they didn't, the hostile takeovers and attempts to buy it didn't work. Google couldn't get their, winning bid. Facebook definitely tried. Everyone tried to, hostile takeover, manipulate. This is, as I say, the same tactics. If you know how they always do it, hostile takeovers are very aggressive corporate takeovers. If you watch, same thing. So they behave the same way. It's easy to see the patterns. Patterns are easy to recognize if you're aware of them. They're everywhere. It's fascinating. So you could see the same games going on. So they kept trying to threaten TikTok, and then they would go back, and then they would threaten a bit. But what was noticed here, every time they did, that's why I went to check who was now let's say, running it, who was the operating or managing directors or CEOs or whatever in these countries they registered. Europe has one, UK has one. You see, when you're on in platform, you have to have a contract. Everything's contractual. There's agreement. So you can see who you're contracting with, and then look at the financial agreement. So the Bank of England, of course. The City of London, this is where the money. So the bankers are behind everything. So the bankers are behind here, City of London, which is Wall Street. So the same thing. I mean, so what did they do? The last now trying to finally ban them. But they banned them from America. They would eventually force England. So TikTok would lose a huge audience. So an agreement was made. If you go and have a look, I found out because I saw it on Yahoo News actually, and I was like, Trump threatens to ban them and whatever else, and I was like, what? And then I saw that now it's okay. They've now agreed to give so many shares to Orion Media, and then go look who the biggest shareholders of Orion Media. Bingo. And then every time they threatened them, what bizarrely happened was you were flooded with Katie Hopkins, Nigel Farage, the Brexit Party, Trump conspiracy theories, all these you can see them, so-called, psyops, conspiracy, all that kind of stuff, and then anti-propaganda, and you were flooded with they were always anti the Crown, and they were anti-Harry, Meghan, the nonsense that comes up. So many people. So this is why you started seeing a pattern, and you started thinking, that's interesting. And if you look at the shareholders, so it kind of gets, you get an idea of what they're after and who they're behind. So they desperately want Trump to win for some reason. Even Elon Musk, which obviously the same thing, wants Trump in. But Elon Musk is the same thing, same shareholders, same thing, say whatever. Wow. But it baffles, not that you matter, because they're going to do what they're going to do. Nothing you can do about it, but you can observe. But as I say, it's just from a level of consciousness, it's interesting to see the patterns, repeating behaviors, and the same games before elections, the same nonsense. Trying to swing the main influence. Well, obviously Italy is very important because the Vatican's there. So the head of they have huge political, religious influence. So they really had to win Italy. So America regime change tactics to get. So you can see that they want very right-wing governments because here they are definitely supporters of the National Party, absolutely, of this Conservative Party. It's very obvious to see they want the Conservative Party in. They want Farage and his friends in. And same with what happened in Italy. So it's obvious to see. You see. Very interesting there. And then you've got the food thing going on, the food lobby to push this. And all of a sudden now they've kind of been pushed out. And now you've got this meat lobby. It is fascinating. So all of a sudden now they've got their way as well. And you're flooded with carnivore diets. It's just bizarre to watch this. So the meat industry and the dairy industry is fighting back. So the social media is flooded with the carnivore diets, and now it's all meat and dairy and carnivore diet and blah. So the poor people out there must wonder what to believe, because you've got one camp telling you, how do your own research. That's just logical. Please do your own actual research, but also understand. If you look at the British Medical Society or Journal. And it's been known for a while that the research we've got now in the medical journals is not reliable, because it's a lot of corruption. It's been influenced because whoever pays for the study and sponsors the studies. So a lot of studies, people don't go and look at the actual study, look at the subjects, look at all the details of the study, how it was done. First of all, if you're going to do something, what the patients were given, the health of them, the age of them, who paid for the study, their conflict of interest, let's say. There's a lot of conflict of interest in this because biggest investors is in the medical system. So you've got the Wall Street now investing in the medical, health, herbal, whatever, taking over housing, because when they got this whole Brexit thing and everything right, what people didn't realize during this whole change in political distraction, that the laws were done away with in the Western countries that are all with America, Canada, England, anyone that's in alignment, the NATO countries, I'm sure. You'll see that they did away with a law which allowed corporations to buy single-family homes. So what wasn't allowed before was corporations could own commercial buildings. You could buy commercial buildings and properties, but you could not own a family home, like a normal house that people live in, because that was for people. So during this whole change, they did away with that law. So a lot of people noticed their rents went up, and there was shortage of rental properties all of a sudden, because you got all these mega corporations coming in and buying up all these homes. What they've also done, which is really interesting and obvious to see, is patterns of behavior. It's greed, because Wall Street will be Wall Street. See, bankers will think like bankers. It's said the programs are running in their bots, because these are just bots, really. In the Maya, but a greater Maya than they're playing. So it's really fascinating to see. So what they're doing now, I noticed on social media, is targeting Airbnb. This has become obvious, and you think this is interesting, because now you've got so-called people that are, Wall Street journalists and stock market, all over TikTok now. You've got all this commercial stuff they're feeding you. So you've got some young guy saying, oh, this is happening, don't invest in that, whatever. And they're telling people, they're trying to put people off investing or in Airbnb. Interesting. And they've now got pages on TikTok dedicated to anti-Airbnb. So they're staging videos, and people also don't buy everything you see here, where you've got someone saying, oh, look, I stayed this and I found a camera there and this and that, and be careful of Airbnb. So a lot of propaganda and fear is being spread about Airbnb. A lot of negative videos and probably conjured propaganda, made up videos, anti-Airbnb. So for some reason, our bankers and the main, as I say, this lot they want to push Airbnb out. Why? Who's Airbnb? The local lady who owns the house, who herself is renting it out. Because if you go to YouTube, guess what? On the adverts, these so-called, Wall Street brokers are telling people, you can rent out someone else's property. That's a bank, middleman. So they want to push out Airbnb, so the local people won't be renting their own properties. All your major corporations now, have leveled up. Renting prices they're actually interesting. It used to go on area, made sense, because in some areas there's no work, so rents are cheaper because there's no, naturally. Now, not at all. The rents are almost same. So even if you stay in a small town, there's no work, the rent is equal to other places where there is. So they push the rental prices up completely. They monopolize the rental market. It's now owned by, you've got huge corporations owning all the, family homes, which is, as I say, making it difficult for people. And now trying to push out Airbnb and running adverts to tell people, you can now be a middleman and make money by renting out someone else's property. Whose properties? Guess who? Because if Mrs. So-and-so is on an Airbnb, why would she want a middleman to rent her property? But if you can ruin or make people frightened, or just, ruin, let's say, put people off using Airbnbs, distrust them, it'll collapse. When you have got huge corporations owning tons of them, or most of them, yes, you're going to get some middleman then to manage your This is what the adverts are, no joke, on TikTok. You've got guys even on here now telling people you can make a lot of money now if you rent out other people's property. You see the patterns and programs, because this is how Wall Street goes, the middleman again in the stock market. So you can see then, by just behavior, it's, if you understand from a personal point of view, this is fascinating. From, let's say, human behavioral study, psychology, patterns, it is so fascinating. And if you understand it and you realize, and you can actually see the patterns repeating, as I say, you understand then we're living through the Marshall Plan 2.0, who's behind it, what they're doing, and the tactics they're using. But it's all an illusion anyway. It's all a Maya. They're going to do it, but it's just interesting to watch. And bizarre. So you've got this whole, and the lobbies. So poor people are getting told, eat vegan, that's good for you. Don't eat this, don't eat that. No, that's terrible. You must go on a carnivore. You only eat meat and do dairy and do this and do that. And yes, you can see it. This is social engineering. Also, mainstream, what they're trying to push. So you've got Gaia, which is clear, very much. So Gaia TV and that whole story is the mainstream narrative. That's the story they want to change, and that's a history they want to sell. So the powers that be want Gaia TV's version of, this change history. This is what they want to change the world. It's clear to see. So they want to go that way. So Wall Street and that lot want to go that way. but also technology again, da da da. But yeah, there's greed. It's really fascinating, and you can see the pushback. And it's also, if you understand, if you see what's happened since this, because it was really interesting. In the UK, you got a lot, before Brexit, you got a lot of organic food, and the quality standard was quite good. As warned, when the Brexit story happened, that they were trying what they were trying to do. True as Bob Brexit, they got it right, the regime change story. This is Americans, they swung the whole thing. They got a lot of countries on their side, Italy and other things, if you want to call the right. Trump, this is what they want, Trump and that whole thing. So they got it right, but guess what happened? From then, they bought all the supermarkets, basically went all the way in, and all the organic food went out the bloody window. But you can go over to Europe now. They don't have an issue with price on organic food. They still have fantastic food. They have, we're not getting, they're getting the quality here of the food. The standards, the transparency of what you're eating has gone out the bloody window. So it's really interesting to see. Yet, go over to Germany, I think nothing, no problem. So you can see that Wall Street and everyone else is trying to go with fake food, eat grain, vegan, whatever else, and all this kind of thing, and synthetics and whatever, engineered, all kinds of rubbish. And Europe is still very much nope, organic and da-da-da-da-da. But just to observe this and the fighting and the propaganda and and it's bizarre. Oh, interesting actually. Totally interesting because it's so transparent. So I don't know about all of you. If you step back and don't take it so seriously, and just from an interest point of view and a pattern point of view, and shake your head. Fascinating, very obvious, also just so I wouldn't say unintelligent, because I say they're running a program, that's it, and they believe that they're separate countries and it's all about us, and we want the most money, the biggest, the best, we want to be the biggest, the strongest, the best, have the most, screw everybody else kind of thing. But that's what I'm saying, this is not connected because there's no one else, there's only one. There's no love, unity, let's share, no. Well, look, it's obvious, Amazon. You must only buy from them. You can't almost find anything unless it's from Amazon. So everything's Amazon, if you like it or not. Everything's eBay's even, there, look at even Facebook trying to take over. The programs, it's interesting also, that's what I say, it's also clear to see the programs and patterns running also by countries. The collective consciousness, control, domination, what they see acceptable, bullying, hostile takeovers, aggressive. We don't like what you want, we're going to bully you, we're going to threaten you, or we're going to, it's like the child in the local, it's like kids at preschool, that if he doesn't get his way, he wants to bite the other one or hit him or take his toy. It's just so bizarre. But the most amusing part is, and this communism thing, which they started, the bankers. That was the biggest lot of nonsense. This privatization, no, if you think of anything non-private, it's communist. And they've got such interest to protect that narrative and to keep it, private. Oh my gosh, why? Because bankers, shareholders. You've just got a few mass corporations and it's just getting bigger. Massive corporations. America's really now on steroids on that aspect. They're trying to really now dominate. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. When you look at all this and you laugh and you realize there's not even anyone here. This is a complete illusion. There's no planet, there's no people, there's nothing real in the first place. It's all rather amusing. Sorry. But it really is. If you've had enough glimpses and you realize nothing's actually happening and nothing's real, and if you actually believed you were on a piece of rock floating in the middle of nothing, that's just, hello, you got to question that one. So guys, just observe it. Do your own research, please, anyway, for your own health, and don't believe videos because, wow, it's frightening. Facebook's actually shocking. If you realize that 98% of Facebook's revenue now is coming from ads, and there's nothing social about it anymore. But what's amazing is that they're allowing rubbish. There are so many fake, even on here. They open bot platforms like this. So you know it's on a high level this is being done. You wouldn't be getting it. If they really, this is why I find it so funny. The government doesn't want, if they didn't want you to know something, believe me, you wouldn't even find it. It would show up on the internet error, not found. You wouldn't even get to the page. So when you see anything and someone's trying to tell you they don't want you to know this, honestly, know it's them doing it to you. It's fascinating. But it's so transparent. It's really, if you look at it from a spiritual point of view, it is the most fascinating thing you've ever observed, because it's a really good observation of the matrix on how these so-called me's, they're very much robotic, actually, their characteristics, if you've done enough introspection and meditations, whatever. It really is. Wow. So don't take it seriously, and don't buy into this shame. Well, they're going to carry on. They're doing it anyway. Yes, and people are going to fall for it because they don't know any better. They don't do the research, and they're emotionally attached to these stories and believe it. But it is clear to see what they're up to. Very obvious. Fascinating. So how they're socially engineering people's behavior. They want to change. You can see the way they want to change history. Well, the whole research, change history, change this, change everything, and in the direction they want to go in. Look where they're putting their money in the first place. And their great attempts, how much they're trying to... They wouldn't be making so much effort if they didn't see a threat. So obviously they feel that the British government, especially the one in power now, are a threat to them. You're so welcome. I'm not doing anything. I'm just sharing. This is just from a pure observation interest. I have no worry. I don't mind. There's no one here. That's what I'm saying. It's the funniest part. They're all source, and there's actually no character. Nothing exists. So these bodies are just running programs on this illusionary eye anyway. But it is so easy to see. If you understand regime change and how they operate, and the governments and this whole CIA, the intelligence operations, you can see it's being used clearly against the Labour Party right now. It was especially, if you want to know how they work, look at Jeremy Corbyn. He was a huge threat to them in this 2016's elections, that they really needed to swing it. So they used the anti-communist, the communist story spiel again, because that's a huge program that was very well brainwashed into humanity. If you just mention the word communism, even runs a mile. So they used that. Look at the tactics, and it was admitted afterwards. They used, because he was leading. This was done. Go and study the first attempt at the interference with Italy's elections in 1947. The CIA. It's a fascinating documentary. It's out there. Fascinating. So it's so easy to see. They are desperately anti the Labour government right now. Well, especially if you understand that they own, these corporations now, multi-corporations, own most of the commercial properties, right? All houses, housing, and that people don't realize. Landlords, they own normal houses now. They bought up so many houses. So, of course, they wouldn't be happy with the Labour government when they now are not standing. It's not all pro-company and landlords. You can do what you want with your tenants. They're not going to like that. So there's a huge... So you've got to realize something is really, they're not liking it. If they're making enough fuss, if they're trying to cause enough trouble to remove Keir Starmer or this government, that's what I say. Yeah. There we are. There's one right there. They're making enough fuss about it. There's a reason why. It doesn't bother you. They're obviously a big threat. What they're doing to their profits, for one. Everything's about money, you see, and the effort. But it's because they want to have more fair workers. And it was clear because even Nigel Farage wanted to do away with the Equalities Act. They wanted to remove everyone's rights, do away with the Equalities Act. So all of a sudden now they want to bring in some fair labor laws in this country. They are freaking out. They're trying everything to remove this government and have loose faith. A lot of fake videos being spread. But this is a normal thing before elections. immigrant stories and so-called invasions and videos and all kinds of so-called people sharing videos, all walks of life, and people believe it, that these are real people and they just, but it's so fascinating. And none of it matters because nothing's really going on. No one's really there in the first place. But it's just, the games. It's an illusion. It's a Maya, which they very much believe because they're really taking it very seriously. But it is fascinating. It's really, if you just want to study, let's say, how the Maya works, humanity, even the characteristics, the programs, the games, and just look at it, don't even get yourself worked up, not even worth it. And just observe. It is really fascinating and very easy to see then. If you step back and just watch and just, okay, that's interesting. Understand everything's for a reason. Why are they making it? They make a big stinking sound about something. It's because it's a threat. Yeah, and they obviously have financial. No one's going to do something unless they think they can gain something from it, especially financially or whatever else. So yeah, it's really, really interesting. Fascinating. But nasty, you just look at all this. It is a show. It is fascinating. You're not going to see this again in a hurry. Yes, exactly. You don't think out the box. Just observe. It's just interesting. Because this is. And especially when you're going through a shift in consciousness and you can see, well, hey, we're not all quite awake yet. Because we're still fighting. We still believe. We're still trying to cause division, hate, and very much patriotic. My country and your country, and he can't. And if it's all are the self, all or nothing. Doesn't matter who they are. You love them all. Because they're not really real. There's no one there anyway. So there's no dislike, there's no hate, there's no negative, there's no judgment, there's just pure observation. And then it becomes really, because you're not attached, very interesting, amusing, and you don't take it seriously first of all, because it's not serious, but it really is interesting to watch. And it's very clear. I think it does help here, have worked for them, and, kind of know the regime change tactics and that kind of thing. We've worked in enough of these countries and seen enough of it, and you go behind them and you wonder why they want something and they're trying very hard to push something. Then you've got to understand why, like this free trade. They really were very much for it, but people didn't go and look at the acts they had snuck in there, which allow these corporations to almost make their own governments in another country. So this is colonialism on another level. So they can now go into South America, if they invest enough money, which they are, huge mega companies, huge farms, they are now can set up their own courts, claim their own taxes in a foreign country. So they're making many governments in foreign countries. That's why they actually wanted the so-called free trade. It was nothing to do with free trade. And it was also to weaken the British story. Because if you understand this is what they're doing, because it's a pattern. Those characters are running the same pattern. They repeat the same behavior like any avatar is, character, right? It's genetic and pattern and behavior. So if you understand what the bankers now looking at changing, like they did after the Second World War, we want to bring in a whole new industry, like the reset, but now modernize. So they've come up with what they think they want the economy to look like. So it's the Marshall Plan 2.0. Yes, of course they're trying to destroy Starmer. Of course they're causing race riots, instigating, but this is a normal regime change tactic. This regime change tactics has been used on all the other countries. It's just been used in your own countries now, that's all. Same games and the same tactics. For any regime change, civil unrest is being used, and it's obvious. The propaganda, the games, the stories, the videos. It's very easy to see. Yes. Whatever you believe, You can believe whatever you want. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. All these bots are running programs. Everything. If you understand this is an illusionary character, it doesn't exist, this me, myself, I, you can see through its faults. If you did enough in here, you'll realize it's completely illusion. It's a faulty thing. It's just stored. It's like a computer software. Whatever's gone in, it's stored it. And whenever the genetics, so-called in the story, because there isn't even time, there's no story, there's no past. It's created a whole story. It goes in a circle. And it repeats. So this is how you can see what is happening right now. The Marshall Plan 2.0. And what they want to achieve, because it means they wouldn't do anything they're not going to get a financial gain from it. Obviously. So they want to get rid of Airbnb, obviously. Because push out all the single home owners. So Keir Starmer's in the way, because his rental policy does not. Everything was very much here aligned with corporations and aligned with the landlords. And everything is very much corporate law. Actually, England has the biggest corporations on the planet. The smallest teeny island, has more corporations in the world than any other corporation, any other country. How's that? But it has the city of London in it, which is the banking capital. It's like the Vatican of the world. So naturally, they hide all the money and everything's tax evasion, put it in a corporation. So England has the most companies in the world registered here. So all their laws were very much in favor of corporations. They had very little protection for workers, very, very little workers' rights, very little tenants' rights. Quite shocking, actually, if you've travelled a lot. So now Starmer wants to bring in better rights for landlords. But when you've now done away, the national whatever, Conservatives, when they got in power, all countries, did away with the rights of that corporations were not allowed to buy normal family homes, because obviously it's for people to buy homes and live in. You need not commercial interest, but now it is. So now you've got huge corporations buying like hundreds of homes at one time. So they are not going to be happy when you do away with a law that's going to be anything that's not in the favor of the landlord, where you just can't throw your tenants out on the street to make homeless people very easily. And especially when they're trying to get rid of Airbnb and put middlemen in because they don't want the hassle. They're just bankers. They just want the money, the land, the value. So now they're selling ads and telling people that you can make money from renting other people's homes out. The minute I get it, how transparent can you be? So you've got all these sort of stockbrokers and other people running courses and selling ads on YouTube, telling people that you can make money, so much money a month, not much because the bankers obviously, but you can now rent other people's, you can be the middleman. So approach homeowners, companies, and rent their houses, manage it for them. Of course, they don't want to have the hassle of managing it. They own the property. That is so Wall Street for you. It's so funny to see. So Wall Street are going to own all the family homes, run out Airbnb and get some middle guys, to make a few bucks here. Not if you don't get greedy, just make a few. But yeah, interesting. So I think this Labour Party and Keir Starmer, which was the people, not the Labour Party, you see, the people voted for them. But it doesn't suit the powers that be, Wall Street and everybody else. And now the people were fed up. So now we want to force them to rethink their votes. And, by stirring political unrest and, there's this issue and it's not safe and they're trying to do this to you and that to you and the regime change and propaganda and, tactics and games going on. And it's clear. And anti-establishment,